Iran's nuclear program shows signs of resurrection. What's next? Iran's nuclear program has made an important move that could lead to unpredictable developments, but observers say Tehran and the West still have a chance to prevent a nuclear arms race from breaking out in the Middle East. Nearly a week after the Israel-Iran ceasefire ended the 12-day war, nearly 10 days after the U.S. attack on Iran's nuclear facilities, Tehran's nuclear program has made an important move that could lead to unpredictable developments. Is Iran's nuclear program resurrected? On June 22nd, the U.S. deployed a series of B-2 bombers carrying more than a dozen GBU-57 bunker-busting bombs to Iran's Fordow and Natanz nuclear facilities. While a U.S. submarine fired Tomahawk missiles at the Isfahan facility, U.S. President Donald Trump asserted that the U.S. attack had completely destroyed Iran's nuclear program, eliminating Iran's ability to manufacture nuclear weapons. Chairman of the U.S. Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Dan Kane, said that the U.S. heavy bombs targeted to ventilation shafts at the Fordow nuclear facility. However, satellite images released by the U.S. aerospace technology company Maxar Technologies on June 30th recorded some activities taking place at Iran's Fordow nuclear facility, one of the three places hit by the U.S. attack on June 22nd. According to CNN, according to Maxar Technologies, activities are taking place in and around the ventilation shafts and craters caused by last week's airstrikes at the Fordow Fuel Enrichment Complex. Specifically, images taken on June 30th show an excavator and several personnel standing next to the northern ventilation shaft on the hillside of the underground complex, and a crane appears to be operating at the entrance to the pit. Several vehicles were also seen below the hillside and parked along a road built to access the area. Commenting on the Maxar Technologies satellite images, former nuclear inspector David Albright, now head of the Institute for Science and International Security USA, said that Iran is actively working to bomb hit sites through the ventilation shafts of the Fordow nuclear facility. According to Mr. Albright, it is possible that these activities are backfilling the craters, doing a technical assessment of the extent of the damage, and possibly taking radioactive samples. We have observed that Iran has been rapidly filling in bomb craters on the main access road to the facility over the past few days. However, there is no indication that they are attempting to reopen any tunnel entrances, Albright posted on social media X days before Maxar Technologies released the satellite images. International Atomic Energy Agency (AEA) Director General Rafael Grossi said the U.S. strike was not enough to completely destroy Iran's nuclear program. Grossi also estimated that Iran could restart uranium enrichment within a few months. Tehran, the West still at odds along with the signs on the ground. The Iranian government has been making tough statements in recent days regarding the country's nuclear program. Most recently, on June 30th, Iranian Foreign Ministry spokesman Esmail Baghaei firmly stated that Iran would not guarantee the security of IAEA inspectors to inspect Iranian nuclear sites attacked by the U.S. and Israel. Mr. Baghaei added that Iran could not guarantee to maintain normal cooperation with the IAEA. Previously, Tehran accused Mr. Grossi of betraying his duty for not condemning the Israeli and U.S. attacks on Iran's nuclear sites. Iranian lawmakers this week voted to suspend cooperation with the IAEA immediately after the statement from the Iranian Foreign Ministry. France, Germany, and the UK issued a joint statement condemning the threats directed at the head of the IAEA, calling on the Iranian government to exercise restraint and resume full cooperation in accordance with its legally binding obligations and take all necessary steps to ensure the safety and security of IAEA personnel. The U.S. has not commented on the movements on the ground at the Fordow nuclear facility, according to satellite images from Maxar Technologies, as well as on the statements from Iran. Early on June 30th, U.S. President Donald Trump clarified that he had not discussed with Iranian leaders and had not made any proposals to Iran. 2 days earlier, Mr. Trump denied media reports that his administration had discussed the possibility of helping Iran access $30 billion to build a nuclear program for civilian energy production. On June 27th, Mr. Trump announced the cancellation of the plan to ease sanctions on Iran, ready to consider bombing Iran again if the country enriches uranium at a worrying level, according to Reuters news agency. For its part, on June 30th, Iran criticized that the Trump administration kept changing its stance on lifting economic sanctions on Iran, and that this game was not aimed at resolving the issues between the two countries. These moves raised concerns that the situation would develop unpredictably. Although according to the Times of Israel, the Qatari Foreign Ministry said that the country was trying to get an agreement on the Iranian nuclear issue and a guarantee from all sides that the conflict would not escalate again. 935. People were killed in Iran and 28 people were killed in Israel in 12 days of war between the two countries. According to Al Jazeera, Iran and the West still have a chance to prevent a nuclear arms race from breaking out in the Middle East. To do that, countries must step up diplomacy. Reaching a deal is essential, but to do so, U.S. diplomacy must return to realism in the negotiations. Washington should abandon its demand for zero enrichment of uranium. Arms control experts note that insisting that Iran must have zero enrichment capacity is neither necessary for non-proliferation nor realistic. The 2015 nuclear deal demonstrated that a limited enrichment program combined with strict monitoring can effectively block Iran's path to a bomb. For its part, Tehran, while refusing to give up its right to enrich uranium entirely, has signaled its willingness to transfer its stockpile of highly enriched uranium and limit its enrichment levels if offered a fair deal. Ultimately, diplomacy and sustained international engagement remain the most effective tools for managing the risks of nuclear proliferation rather than risky unilateral actions, according to Al Jazeera. Is Iran easy to leave the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty? Iran signed the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty (NPT) in 1968, legally committing to renounce its pursuit of nuclear weapons and place all nuclear material under IAEA protection. Days after the bombing, Iran's parliament began drafting legislation to withdraw from the NPT. If Iran does so, the withdrawal could shatter the cornerstone of global arms control. For half a century, the NPT has limited nuclear bombs to a small number of countries. Iran's withdrawal now would mark the most serious breach of the treaty since North Korea left the NPT in 2003 and tested a nuclear weapon for years later. Without its membership in the NPT, Iran would no longer be bound by any limits or inspections, leaving the world in the dark about its activities. An opaque Iranian nuclear program could spur other regional powers to do the same, breaking decades of shared restraint. But leaving the NPT is not easy. The country concerned requires 3 months' notice, a public justification, continued accountability for past violations, and the continued transfer or safeguarding of all imported nuclear technology. These are steps the UN Security Council can use to pressure any party that wants to abandon it back to the negotiating table.